Jazzcast Pros.
If you and your partner have been snapping more than snuggling, feeling disconnected, or secretly sleeping in separate rooms, this episode is for you. We're not talking about date night tips or couples therapy. We're talking about sleep and how it might be the one thing quietly breaking down your relationship or the exact thing that can help you to rebuild it. In this episode, I'm unpacking the real link between sleep and intimacy, why choosing separate beds is not a sign of failure, and how to reconnect without forcing big, awkward conversations. Let's talk about fixing your nights so you can start feeling close again during the day. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the Doze Podcast. I'm your host, Soda Kuczkowski, certified sleep coach, founder of Start With Sleep and the Doze. Here, we talk about the science and soul of sleep because it's not just about closing your eyes. It's about opening up your life, your clarity, and your energy. And yes, your relationships. Because the truth is, we're not just fighting about dishes or socks on the floor. We're fighting because we're tired. And when we're tired, we are short, reactive, disconnected, and emotionally unavailable. So I want our conversation today to focus on why sleep matters more than you think, and how to create a game plan together, and why a separate bed might just be the best thing you can do for your relationship. Because sleep is not just something you do. It's something that influences how you show up, how you think, and yes, how you love. Couples sleep is something I hear of more than anything else. Women concerned about their partner's sleep, putting his needs before her own. Or men ashamed that they've been banished to another room because of snoring, carrying guilt for how cranky and unrested their partner is. This is not a blame game. This is a call to reality. I want you to think about it. From the time we're young, we're taught to be independent sleepers. But once we grow up, we get married or we move in with a partner, we're thrust into this dynamic where our sleep preferences completely clash. They want a firm mattress and you prefer soft. They want the TV on when you want complete silence, and they like it freezing while you crave warmth. No one is prepared us for this, and somewhere along the way, it became taboo to admit you sleep in separate rooms. Let me be clear. There is nothing, and I mean nothing wrong with separate rooms if it helps you both sleep better and show up better in your relationship. Plenty of older couples do it already quietly. They know what works, and they know that there is no shame in it. It breaks my heart seeing how this often hits egos. One partner starts feeling like the problem, the snore, the restless one, the reasons why things feel tense, and the other feels powerless, walking on eggshells around sleep. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Yes, there are absolutely things you can do to minimize, reduce, or even eliminate snoring and restlessness. But if you're already tried all the tricks and you know deep down that you sleep better alone, but still want to feel emotionally close to your partner, I want you to stay with me. The first thing that I want to dive into is how sleep deprivation wrecks your relationships. When you're sleep deprived, you misinterpret facial expressions and tone. We become more emotionally reactive and less empathetic. We often lose interest in physical intimacy. In our patience, it's non-existent, and we feel resentful and disconnected. Sleep is a core part of emotional regulation, and if you're running on fumes, you don't just feel tired. You feel resentful, disengaged, and out of sync. And that's not about love. That's about lack of sleep. Let me be clear again. Sleeping in separate rooms is not a sign of failure in a relationship. It's a sign that you value your sleep, that you value your partner's well-being, and that you value your relationship enough to stop pretending that what you're doing is working when it's not. If your partner snores, tosses, or runs hot and you're white-knuckling it every night, you're not building connection. You're building resentment. You can absolutely be intimate, affectionate, and connected and still sleep in your own space. If you stay in the same room and snoring is the issue, I want you to look at fixing that first. And if you missed it, I want you to go back and listen to my episode on snoring, where I break down the tools and tricks that actually work, including things like positional therapy for back snorers, nasal strips, mouth tape, like should you use it, right? Humidifiers, anti-snore pillows, CPAP, which is continuous positive airway pressure for those who have been diagnosed with sleep apnea. And I want to make sure that you please do not ignore this. If you suspect that you have a medical sleep disorder, you want to make sure that you're getting screened and tested for that. And last, things like sound machines and earplugs that actually work, but that's more about masking the snoring, right? And I'll drop a link to the doze.co below so you can check out my recommendations on the best sleep tools to have in your kit. But to get back on point, if you're not talking about the snoring, you're silently suffering. That's where I want you to start. And if you're not sure where to start the conversation without it sounding like, hey, I don't want to sleep next to you anymore, I want you to try these kind of low pressure ways to get the conversation started. Things like, can we check in about how we're sleeping? I've been waking up feeling wiped out and wondering, can we tweak a few things? Or how about let's do a 1-week sleep experiment to figure out what exactly helps us both sleep better? How about I think our sleep situation is messing with how we connect. Do you want to start switching it up and see what happens? Or something a little bit more active, check out the Sleep Space app that, I recommend. We offer a 14-day free trial and you can use it as a baseline, right? You can hear whether you snore, talk, or are restless in your sleep in the data. And that really puts it into perspective, right? Not just for yourself, but for your partner. The focus is to make it a team effort, not an ultimatum. And I know you might not believe me, but you can make it fun. You can build a sleep game plan together. You can use the application, compare your sleep results. I want you to assess them, right? It's not about being perfect, though. It's about learning about what works. Building the right sleep toolbox together can be really useful. And you can start just by picking, 1 or 2 things that you want to try based on your sleep goals or your challenges, and give each tool a test night. But, if I'm being honest, in my opinion, you really should not be trying anything for less than a week. I often meet with clients where, they go through a very long list of things that they try, but they honestly don't give it time to adjust. Often when we go through sleep challenges, we're dealing with them for long periods of time, but we often look for these quick fixes where if it doesn't work after one time, we completely give up, right? It's also going to take time to undo what got us there in the first place. So I would recommend that perhaps that you do it during the 7-day challenge. And then I want you to keep what works, ditch what doesn't. The point is that by doing this, your partner can also gauge how it worked for their own sleep when you sleep better. What I want is for you to build your joint sleep strategy, not just wing it. And here's the part I love the most because I do this in real life. I want you to connect without talking about sleep directly. I want you to play like a no pressure connection game. For me personally, what I do in my relationship with my husband is I will go to Pinterest, right? And I'll grab one of these graphics where, sometimes it's geared towards couples, sometimes it's just generalizations where they have these like personal reflection questions. So you might ask something like, what's one thing that you would add to your bucket list, right? Or what's one thing you do if money wasn't an issue? Or where would you want to take our next trip? No therapy talk, no pressure, just presence. We do this while we're getting ready for bed, if we're in the kitchen, making a meal together, even on a quick walk. It brings us back to each other without bringing in the stress of the day. We also get to learn how we're changing while still staying connected. If you had asked me, a girl raised in the city, if I would ever want the country life, I would have said no. But now we're making plans to move and get some land and fresh air. We're also talking about our retirement and thinking about it would be really nice to get an RV and make a cross-country trip. Younger me would have loved the adventure, but not so much the transportation mode, right? I'm more of a glamper than a camper. But the world changed, and so did I. So to stay connected, you have to acknowledge it and evolve together in how your mind becomes open to new ideas. And now, if you want to incorporate a sleep talk and dive a bit deeper into the challenge at hand, the conversation might look like this. Is there anything that I could do to help you sleep better? They might not even have given it any thought or have been dying to say something but didn't want to upset you, right? My husband doesn't even realize it when his snoring has restarted until I draw his attention to it. And then he can take the steps to use products or be more aware of what he's doing or not doing that may be causing it. You just want to let that conversation happen without judgment. Listen more than you fix. You also don't need to fix everything in one night. It's just about that listening part. I may have a lot of answers when it comes to sleep, but like everyone else, when it comes to those closest to you, you don't often listen. You have to approach it with care. Plus, so many people think sleep and intimacy are separate, but they're not. The truth is, sleep is where your relationship either fractures or fortifies. It's where your nervous system resets. It's where your body heals, and it's where resentment either grows or dissolves. Sleep is not a weakness, it's a strategy, and needing space at night doesn't mean that you're growing apart. It may be what helps you grow stronger. You're not weak for needing space. You're not selfish for needing sleep. You're wise for wanting to protect the thing that you built by doing what actually works. And what I want you to remember in all of this is that sleep is not separate from your relationship. It is your relationship. It's the foundation of how you speak to each other, how you touch each other, and how you feel seen and supported. And if this episode hit home for you, do me a favor. Share it with your partner, spouse, or send it to a friend who needs to hear that sleeping differently is not giving up, it's waking up to what matters. Normalize the conversation, reframe, or eliminate that guilt. And if you're looking for tools, guides, or product recommendations that can support your journey together, I want you to head to thedoze.co or come hang with me on Instagram at startwithsleep or thedoze.co. Remember, you don't need to sacrifice sleep to hold your relationship together. Sleep is what helps you stay loving, present, and in sync. Until next time, sleep well.